Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. My name's Sean. I'm the host on BlueRidgeSilverhound, and today we got another edition of the Pocket Change Market Report for August 22nd, 2020. It's Saturday evening. The real big question going into the end of the summer, of course, we've kind of been subjected to whether you want to believe it or not, a possible I guess, coin shortage, where it's very difficult to find bank rolls out in the system today. Okay, there are people that are having more success than I am, and there's a lot of people that are just having a heck of a time trying to find rolls that they could search through to find some of these subject coins that I'm going to talk about in this video today. All right, so are there quality errors and varieties with this short supply? That's going to be the big question. I have noticed a few things on the secondary market. Of course, you guys know I scour eBay. That's the best kind of like barometer regarding things that sell in real time. Okay, there's no better, tool to use to help gauge exactly what's going on in the market. But based off of what I've seen, we're beginning to see a little bit of a dwindle in the overall quality errors and varieties department. In this video, I only have 20 to talk about, and there's going to be a few, buyer bewares that you need to know about as well. Errors that didn't quite cut the mustard, all right, for a few reasons, and I will talk about that. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you guys. Feel comfortable, pull up a chair, grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee, whatever your flavor is, and get ready to find out exactly what sells. All right. Another thing that you guys need to know, especially if you've never been onto the Pocket Change Market Report video, I talk about coins sold on eBay. They are all raw. There are no graded coins to talk about. There might be an instance where I do discuss a graded coin, but the big idea is you find it, you list it, you sell it. Okay, you don't have to send it off to a third-party grader, pay all that extra money. People like this accessibility of the information and the ability to sell the coins as soon as you have them. All right, so that's going to be the big key. So I figured let's go ahead and jump right into some of the sales from the last day or two, and we're going to go ahead and start it off with one of my favorite dates, and you're going to see a theme in this video, 1960D. This particular one is a large date, Denver. I tell everybody, if you come across a 1960D, make sure you take a close look at these coins, because a lot of them will have pretty neat repunch mint marks, varieties, okay? And there's a lot of them too. It's not just one, two, or three of them. There are a whole bunch of these repunch mint marks for this particular date. It's one of the most plentiful probably since 1950. Another close second I would say is probably 1956D. That would be the other date where you could find a lot of varieties, okay? Valuable varieties at that. So this 1960D, of course, on the top of the list of just like basic coins that you should be looking every single time. And if you guys need help, as always, having a quality magnifier is one of the most important tools that you could put into your arsenal as you're searching through your change for some treasure. That's what we're looking for. But this particular coin right here, oh, by the way, if you need a magnifier, I got the links down below in the description box. Cheap, easy, affordable, but it's a necessary must-have in this hobby. But this particular coin right here, upon close examination, is a really cool repunch mint mark. This is RPM number 13. All right, it's a Wexler's attributed variety. This one you can see the repunch D north of the primary mint mark. Of course, you can see the light line right there, the outline of the D, which is really cool. This particular coin sold for $12.75. The coin has a little bit of condition issues on the reverse. There's a few rim bumps, but you know what? Again, the main idea is to look at these coins close as you can to find these repunched mint marks. As you guys know, the mint marks were punched independently with each set of working die. All right, so for every obverse die that is made for some new strikes, they hand punch the mint marks in there. And of course, the room for error is very high when it comes to stuff like this. But $12.75, not too bad. Make sure you keep an eye out for these. Okay, so I've talked about this coin before, and again, very rarely do you come across this major variety in the Indian head cent series ungraded. But here you go. We have a really nice, abnormally high graded 1897 Indian head cent, which features the one in the neck variety. Okay, so these digits were hand punched into the die back then. Okay, things worked so much differently 130 years ago than they do today. All right, they're much more of a crude kind of way of producing the dies, and that's why things like a 1 in the neck, you can see the top flag of the 1 poking out there on Liberty's neck. But this is the main snow variety for this particular date, and it's one that constantly gets cherry picked over. But one in this grade, which I suspect to be kind of like an AU50, maybe an AU53, a really nice high graded coin. This one sold for $809.89. A supreme example, a really great high grade example for the collection. Okay, so we're back to 1960. We got another large date, Denver. Again, check your 60Ds. Ladies and gentlemen, there's just so much to look for in this particular date. Up close, this is going to be the major cherry picker's guide, D over D. Okay, so the repunch D is west of the primary mint mark on this one. This one's hard to miss. Sometimes you can see this with the naked eye if you know what you're looking for. The mint mark is positioned on the in relation to the date on the coin, where you might be able to kind of pinpoint it. But this one right here is RPM number 1. It sold for $20.75. Pretty nice chunk of money for a coin that is actually quite common. All right, I found a number of these, and they are worth looking for. All right, on to a piece of currency. Believe it or not, we have a few pieces of currency. We have this one and another one coming up later on in the video. This one is a 1935 silver certificate. Now, it's a much older banknote than what you would normally find today. But again, the error that is displayed on this note can be found even on some of the newest notes. So if you notice on here, this note was printed with a wrinkle in the paper. So when that happens, and then you have the ink run over the wrinkle, and then you stretch out the paper after the print has been made, you get something called a gutter fold error, which is what you see here. It's a very visually stunning type error. Even on the reverse, you have the same thing. But this is an error that pops up, even on some of the newest notes. There was even a 2017 series $1 Federal Reserve note that had one of these gutter folds that sold for probably about like $45. That was about 2 months ago, so that was pretty neat to find. But this is just a really visually stunning example. This one sold for $49.09. Gutter folds, in hindsight, is kind of on the low end of the error currency kind of totem pole. But again, you can't understate just the simplicity and the beauty of a gutter fold error. All right, so our first kind of like buyer beware. Okay, this 1997 Lincoln Memorial Cent was advertised on eBay as being a doubled ear. Now, in 97, yeah, they didn't have anything that looked remotely close to this. There was a doubled ear for this date, but this is not the one. Where these little arrows are pointed on the ear, which is, by the way, supplied by the seller, it's showing a die deterioration doubled ear on here. Okay, it's centered right on the middle of the coin. This is not a specific variety. It's not an error. Again, we're talking die deterioration here. These coins are not worth nearly as much, but people tend to put them up on a pedestal as if they are something. But you know, if you overpay for something like this, you'll never be able to recoup the money that you could if you resold it. Another kind of like extra diagnostic that you'll look for is in the date. You can see kind of the pull away of the copper plating on this one, where once the dies begin to deteriorate, you do see that quite often. So this one right here sold for $9.19. It seems like a very honest, low value amount for this coin for not being a variety or an error, but I wanted to let you guys know if it has kind of like that halo effect, or it's got kind of like that that stepped look to it, so the flat shelf-like features that give it the appearance of doubling, you want to make sure that you kind of like stand away from it and don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what we're here for. All right, so this one right here is just a single image, 1929 Lincoln wheat cent. There's quite a few cents on this video today. But this one right here looks to have a missing lamination piece that used to be here. And even, you know, even goes right into Lincoln, back of Lincoln's head right here. So there, you know, there's like a split where it's normal. But these right here, as honest as they look, are worth pulling out of your change. To give you an idea, this coin, which is not in the greatest of shapes, sold for $24.20. Not too bad. Again, know what you're looking at. Don't be afraid to ask help, and then you'll come away with, you know, gems in the rough, much like this one. Okay, so we got a new nickel here, 2018 Philadelphia. I've talked about this one, I believe, last week, but I'm going to go ahead and revisit it because it's worth discussing. So on any sort of later date Philadelphia struck coin, you know, you run across some certain, you know, issues and errors that, you know, maybe is not apparent at first glance. But on this particular one on the reverse, if you look to the left of Monticello, you can see this huge die chip. You know, people like to call these kind of like beehive die chips. They're very popular. People like collecting them. They're not worth like a ton of money, but if you took a nickel and you were able to turn it into $2.49, where, you know, that's what this one sold for, then, you know, at the end of the day, you would have made about $2 after shipping. You know, just throw it in an envelope with a forever stamp and you're good to go. But this one right here, again, keep an eye out for these. They range and vary in size, and again, they are worth pulling out. So here's a error you don't traditionally see on like these kind of like 2000s Roosevelt dimes, or any later dated dime for that matter. This is a 2003 Philadelphia Roosevelt dime that is clearly off center by about maybe 5-6%. It's not a whole lot. You know, you still have quite a few of the devices that are nestled up to the edge of the rim, like Liberty and United States, and, you know, those particular devices. This one right here, pretty cool. Sold for $47.95. Some would say, whoa, I had no idea that it would sell for nearly $50. But that just kind of helps testify how tough it is to find any errors on the later dated Roosevelt dimes. Okay, so there is a market for these. Just be mindful that these do exist, along with, you know, various other different types of errors. All right, so here's the other currency bit. All right, so we have 3 star notes. The serial numbers are all consecutive. I've had a lot of emails come across my way regarding sequential serial numbers. Now, in this case, we got 3 star notes, which is a whole lot more desirable than non-star note sequentials, because the non-star notes you could easily find at the bank in a BEP strap pretty regularly. Now, those sell for only about $150, so it's not a huge premium. That's for $100 face. Now, when you have star notes, it's a little bit more difficult, because generally, when a note is being replaced as a result of misprint or damage or what have you, they'll put 1 star note. So there is obviously in this particular, I guess, pack, a consecutive amount of notes that needed to be replaced, and there you go. There's 3 consecutive stars. So this 3-note set sold for $31.26. I checked. This particular serial number string is a high volume one. I believe 3.2 million. So not particularly rare, but when you have 3 consecutives that are all in gem shape, yeah, they're worth about $10 a piece. Not bad. All right, so I was fortunate enough to find another seller that had one of these mismanufactured, mispackaged proof sets. This time in 1956, which is the first date in which these proof sets were much more higher minted, which in today's kind of collectability, these can be purchased for about $25. All right, so they're still very affordable. But if you're lucky enough to come across a mispackaged set, in this case it's missing a dime and it has another Lincoln cent, then you have something that is collectible to a specific group. Okay, some would say that mispackaged coins from the mint isn't considered a mint error because it happened outside of the striking component to the process. I've heard that a number of times, but just be mindful that these have a value outside of that. And there you go. There's the very envelope that it was in. It looks like it was never shipped in this particular envelope. Normally you would have an address label right on the middle. It has no adhesive either. So this was probably part of a group of proof sets that were bought at one time. So this one right here sold for $80, which is just a tick over 3 times what a normal proof set goes for. So they do have value. Make sure that if you did come across one, that you just don't dismiss it or throw it, in a box or whatever. They're actually quite valuable. So make sure you know that. All right, so our featured coin is actually courtesy of Sullivan Numismatics, one of the foremost error experts out in the field today. So he had this 1983 Philadelphia Washington quarter, very nice, high-grade condition. Of course, this is a much tougher coin to find in brilliant uncirculated condition. Okay, this one right here is even 20% off center, struck a very nice, very cool error. This one sold for $32 earlier in the day. All right, so I have this one up here, and this is just going to kind of give you an idea of how subtle an error can be. This is a 1973 Denver Lincoln Memorial cent, and if you're not paying close attention, you will miss exactly what is wrong with this coin. And now, this is going to further kind of like solidify the fact that a magnifier is hugely important. If you don't have one, do not try looking for these without it. Bisecting die crack. The person that actually sold this coin actually has a number of close-ups. I didn't put them all on the video, but if you wanted to, just check on error coin sales from the last like 12 to 24 hours. Find this coin. Take a look at the close-ups. I mean, from this image, you can see the crack going through the ear and then down through the back of his neck and into the jacket, and then it actually exits out underneath the jacket and into the rim, and you can see just a faint line of that crack. So how much do you think this thing sold for? $17.50 for what is normally a minor die crack that's bisecting. You can barely see it, but with good close-ups, you can turn 1 cent into $17 just like that. So this one's cool. Probably not one that you'll come across too often in pocket change, but this is a Jefferson nickel that is off-center struck, probably like 90%. I mean, it's that far offset. But what is cool and what is like kind of like extraordinary is on the obverse you have this indent. All right, so this is not something that you see every day. It was probably a scrap or a scrap of another coin or something that was on top of here during the striking process. This one, very neat, sold for $49.99. you buy it for what it is, and it's a very interesting dual error type coin. All right, so my second buyer beware is going to be this 1998 D Washington quarter. Now, I like talking about clipped planchets, rim clips. All right, so this one right here, I believe, probably tripped up someone, okay? From the obverse, it looks like a real clip, all right? But what did I tell you guys about something called the Blakesley effect, where you have the opposite side flatness? Guess what? This one doesn't have it. So if you look on the reverse of the coin where the clip should be, you see all this buildup of metal, okay, which that is not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to look that crude and dirty. So this one is a damaged coin, okay, whether it's intentional or not. This one is not a real clipped planchet. Now this one right here sold for $9.75, where in this case it's only worth a quarter because it's a made up damaged coin. It's not made up, but someone either this happened by accident or someone really did try to deceive a collector. And just make sure that you know what you're looking for these rim clips. They do have some value, and they continue to go up in value too, the more that there are. All right, this is kind of like a mini buyer beware, but these really do have a genuine secondary market, and it's more along the lines of an art form. It's a 1941 Lincoln wheat cent. This one features pretty nice toning on the obverse. We've seen a lot of people sell some of these toned coins. The coloring is a little irregular, which leads me to believe that it was probably heat treated to produce this effect. But people are doing it as more of an art form than it is actual legit toning. This one right here is sold for $16.50, and people are kind of wise to it, and they're keeping the spend down under $20 for a lot of these coins. I usually don't see any that are that much more expensive unless it's a legit toned coin. So there's a certain color progression that you have to follow when it comes to toning. Usually it's going to be a bullseye targeted toning because these generally come either out of rolls as an ender or an album. All right, so make sure you know that. All right, so we have another off-center Lincoln cent. It's the 1969 D, which I know for a fact is a kind of like a key or just a really difficult coin to find off-center struck with a full date. Okay, so the 69D. I mean, it's a nice brown example, probably like a AU58, Mid-State 61 type example. This one sold for $32. All right, so again, these have a tremendous secondary market. People love these. They like to collect them by date, and they like to have kind of like a similar appearance to all the coins. All right, so we have another pretty phenomenal looking Roosevelt Dime. This one is double struck, but it also exhibits some problems. Probably as a result of maybe, the coin trying to go through a coin counter or a rolling machine. You can see some of the damage here on the rims and on the edge. You see it on the reverse too. Now, the seller of this coin had made mention that it was probably struck through debris also, but I'm kind of unsure. Just based off of some of the other damage on the coin. This might be damage as well. But all in all, I mean, this is a fantastic error. And it probably sold for less than what it's actually worth. This one sold for $138.25. The secondary strike is about 80% off center. So that's pretty neat. You got two Roosevelt heads on here. And again, this is a really cool conversation piece if you needed it. Just a really nice, pleasing off-center 2001 Lincoln cent. There's nothing additional that you need to know about this coin other than, you have a full date. It's a nice red color. It's just, if you needed this example in your off-center type collection, you could do a lot worse. This one sold for $11. All right, so we have a couple more coins left. The 1970 D Washington quarter has probably lived on to be one of the most intriguing dates for a number of reasons. Okay, we got the this one right here, which I've talked about on a number of occasions because it exists quite regularly for this date and mint mark. And you'll notice when you look at this coin, the strike is pretty weak on both sides. Okay, and that there's a pretty good reason for that. That coin was struck on dime thickness stock. All right, so a number of dime planchet thickness stock. I mean, they're the actual size of a quarter, but thickness-wise, they're as thin as a dime. So they're very thin compared to a regular quarter. Because of how thin it is, you don't get the full pressure of the strike on both sides of the coin. The best way that you could kind of figure out if you have one of these 1970D struck on a dime thickness planchet is to simply weigh it or sit it right next to another regular quarter and see how thinner it is, how much thinner it is. The one that is struck on the dime thickness stock will weigh 4.26 grams, which is nearly a full gram less than what it should be. But a really neat coin to find. They are extremely valuable. This one sold for $61.70. And it's going to be easy to miss. I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of these have passed through many hands and nobody seems to really kind of figure it out yet. And then finally, we're going to end it off the same way that we started. 1960D, Lincoln Memorial Cent. What did I say? This is the date that everybody should be looking for. Only this particular coin right here is a dual variety coin. Okay, I've talked about this one. And this is a tremendous coin to look for if you could find it. They are certainly valuable and they are coveted on the secondary market. Not only is this the D over D RPM, but it is also the DDO, small date over large date variety. All right, this is also FS 101 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. You can actually see the small 0 and then the big 0 underneath it. You can see the small 6 tail right here underneath the big 6, and then so on, all the way across. This is, again, one of those most coveted varieties in modern Lincolns that everybody looks for. And they like the examples that are mint state. I have a few mint state reds myself of this particular variety, but again, it's a Cherry Picker's Guide favorite, and it's even in the red book. But please do keep an eye out for these. Again, 1960D is a panorama of just certain treasure. Okay, it's a very fun date to search through if you could find them. They're still quite common. Millions of these were made, so keep that in mind. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this evening. I hope you had a wonderful time, kind of taking a stroll down memory lane for some of these varieties. I've talked about a few of them before, but it's always good to revisit some of them just to help kind of corroborate how crazy the market is right now. And if you could get a hold of some coins, if you're a lucky person to get, do that, then I would certainly recommend it, especially if your bank doesn't care. There's very few of them out there these days. They're holding on to their change and their rolls, which is maddening. But anyways, I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. I want you guys to like, share, and subscribe this video. Hit that bell for instant notifications. And I can't wait to do another one of these videos for you next weekend. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, by the way. It's not even done yet. And I'll see you soon. All right, take care, guys.